Hi there, I'm Heather and I'm here at Uminami Farm, and today we are talking about cabbage. Here we are in our field of winter cabbages. This is a variety that we would have seeded back in July or so and transplanted in August. And this particular variety is moderately frost tolerant, and so we've been able to keep it in the field until mid-December. And today we're going to harvest some more cabbage and take it to the kitchen and talk about making a cabbage pasta. All right, so we are going to we're going to select a cabbage and harvest it and then go make some lunch. So I'm standing here in the cabbage field and I'm just looking around and I'm trying to find a cabbage that's, I guess you could say, like sort of medium size, kind of like this. I don't want a cabbage that's like that big because that's too much for 3 people, which is what I'm cooking for. So I am just going to grab a knife. This is a super old knife. If it cuts, it's good, kind of a thing, you know. I am eyeing this cabbage right here. By the time we peel off some extra leaves, it'll be, you know, maybe a little bit bigger than what I was saying, but I think this will work. I'm just going to give it a good cut. There we go. There's our cabbage. So now let's go to the kitchen. Here we are in the kitchen of the Uminami farmhouse. Here's the cabbage we just finished harvesting and cleaning up outside. And so I'm going to take this and use it to make some pasta sauce. This is pretty wet right now, just from being washed outside. That's not really a big deal. If we wanted to get fancy, we could dry this off first so that the water's not diluting flavors and stuff like that. I think that I will do that in this case because then it doesn't spatter too much when we put it in the oil in the pan. But that being said, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. I'm just going to pat this dry with a clean tea towel. Now, I want to show 2 different ways of working with a cabbage. One way is if we knew for sure that we're going to use the whole cabbage right now, we could just take this and cut like this. Or if you don't mind having a cabbage that's been cut in half in your fridge, you can also just do that. That is the simple way. That being said, let's say you have a small family or you're a single person and you want this cabbage to last you a couple weeks maybe, let's say. If you cut it, it's going to go stale way more easily because now you have all these opened surfaces that you've created. So if you want to make this last as long as possible, what you can do is you can use it by peeling the leaves. It doesn't matter if you rip them a little bit because we're going to cut them up anyways. But what I try to do though is I try to line up this hard part of the stem. I try to line those all up as I take them off the cabbage. And that way I can make sure to cut the hard part correctly. Sometimes when you get down to the inside part of the cabbage like that, it's not that easy to peel. That being said, these little pieces can just go straight in the pasta sauce. Like I said though, this is the only reason I'm doing it this way is to be able to keep the inside of the cabbage whole, to keep it longer. If you want to make this easy, just cut it in half and chop it up. It's not a big deal. In fact, my main purpose here is actually to demonstrate this technique, and so after the demonstration, I probably will just cut this whole thing up. So now I've taken a few leaves off, and you see the hard midrib here. I'm just going to make a cut as near as possible right through the midrib of those. You can see there's one here I got off center. It's not a big deal. What I can do now is just make sure the cutting board is stable and then cut through that midrib. Because that's the part that will seem really hard and bulky if you don't cut it up. There we go. I'm just going to grab a bowl here so I don't knock stuff off the cutting board and onto the floor. Now this one, same deal. Try to be mindful of my fingers while I'm doing this. Actually, this could be the beginning of a really great coleslaw. We're not going to make coleslaw right now, but this could be the beginnings of a really great coleslaw. Now, last time I made pasta sauce, I made way too much, so I just need to make a quick decision if I want to cook this whole cabbage right now or not. I think that I will peel a few more leaves and see if it looks like enough or not, because I have a habit of making too much food at once. If you like having leftovers, that's not an issue, of course, but Oops. Yeah, I think we're getting really down to the inside of this cabbage now. The inside of, one nice thing about separating the outside and inside of the cabbage by peeling like this is you can actually use the outside and the inside in different ways. The outer leaves are older, the outer leaves are also usually a little bit tougher, whereas like this inside part of the cabbage, like these leaves have literally never seen daylight. They have literally never touched the elements outside the sheltered confines of the cabbage. And so these are really nice and tender. And so you might, for example, want to do a cooked dish with the outer leaves and then do a coleslaw with the inner leaves. You don't have to get that fancy. You could just do a coleslaw with the whole thing. You could just cook the whole thing. But if you want to appreciate some of the nuances of the vegetable, this inner heart has a different nuance to it than the outer leaves. All right. Gather up my stems here, cut those. Oops, drop some on the floor, I'll pick it up later. And these I'll just chop coarsely. There we go. One little piece here escaped. That goes in the bowl. Now, I think I might actually stop here. This is a little bit of an experiment on my part as well. Last time I made pasta sauce, I used a whole big cabbage and made way too much. This time I started with a smaller cabbage. I only peeled a few leaves, but I'd also like to see how I feel about this once it cooks down. So I'm gonna save this for another time, which is part of why we peeled the leaves. Now I have a leaf of chard here, so we'll just chop that up at the same time. When I make pasta for the farm crew here at the farm, it's usually just whatever vegetables we happen to have on hand. Today we only have 3 people to cook for, so I'm going to keep it simple. Now those are my vegetables that are going to go in. Now I make the base for our pasta sauce the way the farm owner Uno-san showed me, which is I start with anchovies, and I put, oh my pasta water is boiling. I put a few of these into some oil in a pot. I don't need a pot this big. I just picked this pot out of habit. I like this pot because if I do end up with more ingredients, I don't need to switch to a bigger pot. Now I'm just gonna put this on maybe minimum or 2, because I just want to kind of melt the anchovies in the oil without cooking them too much. And then while those are melting, I'll put my pasta in here. So it's boiling already. Where's my pasta? There it is. We usually measure our pasta by weight. That's not really the point of this video, but just saying we usually do our pasta by weight. For farm workers who are like doing physical stuff, we usually aim for 100 grams of pasta per person. That being said, today hasn't been as much of a physical day, and one of the people who's eating doesn't have a big appetite, so I kind of cut it down to more like 250 grams of pasta for 3 people. All right, we will let that do its thing. Maybe put some salt in there because that is a nice thing to do. And just make sure to stir this so it doesn't clump together. Okay, bang, that's ready to go. So we have the anchovies going here. Usually takes a while to heat up. I'm gonna leave that be while I cut up the bacon, which is the other thing we use for the base of the pasta sauce. I already have some onions in there, which I cut up earlier. I cut them up before we started the video, mostly just because like the onions we're using at this point are like these tiny little things that we have left over from the stuff that we sold to our customers. In fact, the ones I cut up today were even smaller than this, and I didn't want to do that on video because it was too tedious. All right, bacon. This is not the bacon bag. If anyone watching this is able to read Japanese, you'll know that that does not say bacon. We just put it in there to keep it in the fridge. There's a great farm nearby called Perry Bay Sheep Farm, which has a farm stand they open on Saturdays where they sell a variety of different meat, sheep, chicken, pork, that they raise in conjunction with another farmer here in the Chosen at a place called Still Meadow Farm. I think they also have beef now too, actually, from some farmer out in Saanich. So anyways, as much as we can, we try to get our bacon from them. I should say Still Meadow Farm, rather. It's actually Still Meadow who raises the bacon and then sells it through Perry Bay. But anyways, you get the idea. So, this is probably a little bit more than I need. I probably would have taken more like 1 slice for 3 people, but that's okay. I just cut it up like so. What's nice about this is it gives some flavor. It also gives another kind of oil as well. I find that when we're doing farm work, like when I used to work an office job, I really tried to limit my carbs. I really tried to have more protein. I find now that I'm doing farm work, I really need the higher calorie food. And so that's where something with a bit more fat in it, especially the animal fat, really makes a big difference. If you're wanting to watch your calories or something like that, yeah, less bacon is probably a good idea. I often do this recipe with just the anchovies, which gives some nice flavor. You basically want something that's going to give you that umami, that kind of amino acid taste. And so if you did the anchovies and then had some tomato sauce, the anchovies would have one source of umami and then the tomato sauce would have another source of umami, and that together would probably be good too. So this is what I do, putting in the bacon. That being said, it's if you don't want to be eating meat products or if you don't want to be having that much animal fat, it's not a huge deal, you know? I would, however, if I was not putting the bacon in, I would put some other kind of fat more. Like I would add more olive oil, I would add some coconut oil or something like that. Unless you're really, really trying to restrict your fat intake, I would add more oil of some kind just because it makes it taste good. Okay, I just forgot to dissolve the anchovies. You can kind of see, you can still see the anchovies like this. I am going to raise the heat just a little bit and try to get these to melt. So I'm going to just kind of take the chopsticks and sort of mash them up a little bit. The trick is we want them to kind of dissolve but not burn. I could probably also use a little bit more oil in here myself. It's always a balancing act. I tend to like more oil in my food. One of the people I'm cooking for today really likes less oil in her food. That's living in a family, right? Or living with other people, or cooking for other people, eating with other people. It's just, try to strike a balance. Maybe I can just get the camera and I'll show where this is at right now. I would ideally have it a little bit more sort of liquefied than this, but this is kind of getting it where I want it to be, sort of a thing. Just take a little break and stir the pasta before I forget. It was really funny. One year we had a temporary part-time worker who was from Italy, and he commented to us that he really didn't like pasta in North America because people tend to overcook it. I'm one of those people who tends to overcook their pasta, but I'm trying to learn to do it a little bit more al dente because at least one of the people who's here at the farm today would prefer it that way. So yeah. Okay, I would say this is starting to sizzle. I've got the anchovies more or less melted now. Now I'm just going to stir them in with everything else. And my goal here is to get the bacon to cook a little bit, get some of the fat to dissolve out, and so that I can then use that fat for cooking the cabbage. All right, I'm back. So I've got my tomato paste here. You can use any tomato paste. We get the organic one from Costco. Take off the label. I gotta do this quick because I should have had this open earlier. I'm starting to overcook the stuff in the pan now. But I will just quickly get this pan open. I'm just gonna grab another little spatula from the drawer here. I always hate wasting stuff on the edge of cans. I always wonder how much in the food in the world gets just left on the sides of cans and bottles, and half the time there's nothing I can do about it, but if I can, I'll scrape it all out and use it all. So yeah. Oops. A little bit more in there. Okay, good enough. All right, then next. So what I'm gonna do, part of my goal here is I wanna kind of cook the tomato paste a little bit first. Again, this is getting to another, like a slightly fancier level. Like if I had forgotten to open the tomato paste and I put the vegetables in, either I could just decide to make a tomato-free pasta sauce, or I could add it in later. Either those would have been possible. The reason I'm preferring to put it in right now is I find it tastes better if I kind of cook the tomato paste a little bit first. So for that reason, I'll put this in now. Now, if I had not put the tomato paste in, what we could have done is done more of like a sort of a pan-fried vegetable tomato pasta sauce. If I wanted to get fancy, I could get another pan with oil and pan fry these and then add them. That being said, like it's already 12:30. We want to be eating lunch soon, and the noodles are almost done too. So, we're gonna stick that in there. Waste not, want not. Get it all in the pot, and stir that up a little bit there. I will probably add a little bit. Oh no, actually, I shouldn't add oil. I was gonna say I'll add oil, but like I said, one of the people we're cooking for today doesn't want too much oil, so no more oil. What I will add though is, if I wanted to, we could either add water or not add water. Why don't we not add water and see how this is doing, and just keep an eye on it so it doesn't burn. So what I'll do at this point is, let me see if there's steam coming from that. I can see steam coming from the pasta pot. We don't have steam coming from this yet though. I'm a little bit worried about not having enough moisture in here, but I'm just gonna try covering the lid so we keep in whatever moisture there is, and then see if we can manage that without having to add any extra liquid, which would dilute the flavor. So yeah, so why don't we pause there for a sec and we'll just see. All right, so we're back again now. We took a break for just like a minute or so. The pasta sauce has started to burn. I don't know if we can get that on the camera easily with all the steam coming out of the pot. I regret, this is what it looks like right now, and that's just after like a minute or so. I had it on 8. That was probably a bit too high. That being said, the vegetables are starting to cook. I'm getting more steam coming out now, which is going to help them to cook up as well. I've considered adding some moisture to this right now, but the thing is, if I do that, what's going to happen is all that burned stuff on the bottom is going to dissolve, and then the pasta is going to taste burned. Whereas if I just stop right now, I think like we can take a look at one of these cabbage leaves. Realistically, it's edible raw, so it's just a matter of what you want it to be. I mean, I would say that this right now, I'm going to take the liberty of tasting this. Hope it doesn't. I'll remove the mic so you don't have to listen to me chewing. It's not perfectly soft, but it's eatable like this. And also, while I'm serving the pasta and setting the table, I'll leave the lid on so it has more time to cook. So I'm going to turn the heat off right now because it's already burning. I don't know if the mic caught that or not. I was just saying, I'm going to turn this off now because it's already burning. Put the lid back on so that way the steam is kept inside to help it cook some more. I'll put it on a different burner so it's not getting heat from the bottom. And at this point, we are ready to serve the pasta and eat. So we'll probably take like another just quick little clip once we have the pasta on the table, but we'll just take a break while we put it out. So here we are all ready to serve up. I've already put out the pasta. I'm just going to grab a serving spoon. So here's our pasta sauce. I know it's hard to see because it's all steaming and stuff like this, but there we go. Unfortunately, you can still see the burned part on the bottom, which is kind of softened up a bit. I let it sit for a good 5 minutes or so with the lid on. That being said, I don't want to scrape that part when I'm serving, so I'm going to try really hard to just take the nice stuff on top. Some versions I've made of this are a lot more watery, but I chose to try to go for a more concentrated flavor this time. Oops. I also made less pasta sauce this time, so I have to make sure to ration it a bit better. Yeah, with this last person serving, I'm starting to get some of the burned stuff on the bottom there, but that's okay. It's part of the flavor. All right. If this wasn't burned, I would scrape it a lot better just to get the last drop of goodness, but burned is not so good, so I won't scrape too hard. All right, this person probably needs some more. And there you go. This is our lunch today at Uminami Farm, and thanks for sharing the process with us.